This is me. And this is the monster of an obby that I have to complete. It starts off easy, but it gets harder and harder until the game becomes so painful that you just want to give up. Here is my journey trying to prove that Master's difficulty chart obby is in fact possible. Just to waste 6 whole months trying. The first few difficulties flew by. I wonder if I can beat this game without dying. This was when my confidence was at its peak, only to fall drastically in the upcoming months. This next difficulty would start my journey of despair. Death. Something that I thought would never happen. I wonder if I can beat this game without dying. Death became more and more common as the difficulties became harder and harder. Right after that embarrassing death, I picked myself up and bet the stage that I died on. This stage starts off with some simple kill brick jumps to some wraparound. Here I bounced on this wall as a little skip. I slid on this truss with the W and A key. With a few more jumps, the stage was complete with no deaths. The next difficulty is actually quite interesting because it introduces conveyors with kill bricks. I did die a few times on this stage and I even tried to go sideways to make it easier. And after a few more tries, I bet the stage with 6 deaths. You know the way I'm talking about difficulties and stages? But what even are they? Medium, hard, and demon are examples of difficulties. We just bet stage 136 of challenging, but challenging has 19 other stages. So why don't I show all of them? Because if I showed all 381 stages of this very long obby, the video would be over 2 hours long. So I'm only showing the most difficult or interesting stages of every difficulty. Speaking of interesting, in this stage of the intense difficulty, there's a sign that says to do a dance clip. See this wall right here? If I go up to it and type /E dance 2 and press shift, I glitch through the wall. Back in this stage, I went up to the wall and used a slightly more destructive emo. Okay, try number 2. I went up to the wall and used /E laugh and this time it worked. So far we've beaten every difficulty until intense. Now that we're on insane, we're met with our first long stage. So let's try to beat it. To start off, this stage has some long wraparound jumps. I can't tell you how many times I died on these 2 jumps. The rest of the stage consists of easier wraparounds and other simple jumps. But because of how long the stage is, if you fall near the top, you have to do all of those jumps again. The last wraparounds are also quite tough, and I managed to beat the stage with 16 deaths. I want you to look closely and see if you can spot something weird with the next stage. Yeah, I walked straight through the platform. I'm actually supposed to jump here and watch this side for reference because the jumps are mirrored. These types of stages become very annoying in later difficulties with much harder jumps. So this stage was easy. I mean, I only died once, so therefore extreme was easier than insane. You'd be right, but I still have to be extreme plus, which comes right after extreme. We haven't seen the plus symbol up until this point, and that's because we've been playing on baby mode. Now the stages are twice as long and hard with the plus stages. Here I am in Extreme Plus, and let's try to beat it. What killed me the most in this stage is tight jumps like this, or sometimes I just walked off the edge. This jump in particular is tough, because you have to do a truss flick and fit through this gap right here. To illustrate this jump, here we have a truss. If I go up to it and quickly move my mouse to the right and jump, I perform a truss flick. You can also flick to the side, and that's how you do the jump that I failed. As I mentioned before, a lot of my deaths were at the start, including this jump or the truss flick that comes after. I actually managed to first try the jumps after the truss, but I passed this stage with 21 deaths. My confidence in beating this game has been dropping for the past month and a half, and I have to admit it's because I've been dying a lot. Dying 20 times per stage is so demotivating, and I can't imagine how hard the next 4 difficulties will get. Now that we're on Nightmare, we're met with this tower. The good thing is that you can't actually die on this stage, but if you fall, you still have to beat the first jumps again. You'll notice that this stage has a lot of trust flicks, which will become more common in later stages. After making it past the tightrope, we completed the stage with 0 deaths. Something that I haven't explained yet is why I'm doing this challenge. Why am I spending months trying to beat this monster of an obby? Just why? You see, I've always wanted to beat a difficulty chart. In fact, I've played so many different types of them, but I always gave up halfway through because of how difficult they became. The patience needed to spend months on a single task was something that I couldn't handle. Until I decided to climb a mountain. No, not literally, because that would require me to go outside. I played a game about climbing a mountain. I immediately fell in love with Celeste because it reminded me of all of those enjoyable moments when playing obbies. Even though Celeste became harder and harder, the game wanted me to win. Every death was an opportunity because it put me one step closer to reaching the summit, and I actually did it. This game inspired me to make my goal of beating a difficulty chart obby into a reality. So with that in mind, I continued on with confidence. On my first attempt, I actually got pretty far, until I reached this point where I got stuck. Where do I go from here? I turned around and realized that this stage actually has many paths. Then on my 12th attempt, I nearly managed to beat the stage. But this wall hop killed me. Then I realized that I could wall hop anywhere on this stage. Remember the point where I was stuck? I could have wall hopped to get past it. I started experimenting by using wall hops to create shortcuts. Although I was going a lot faster, I was dying a lot. Because wall hops are difficult. You have to flick in between 2 parts perfectly to execute one. But the deaths didn't stop me. I continued to go fast and create my own shortcuts by wall hopping. After beating the stage, I felt something that I never felt before. I felt happy. Why was this feeling so distant from me before? At first, I wanted to beat the game for the challenge, but spending all this time, I just wanted to get the game over with. It was boring and the deaths were demotivating. That's when I learned that even though the game was painful, I could still enjoy it. The stage that I died the most on was the one that I had the most fun. Just like in Celeste, I experimented and created my own path, which allowed me to beat the stage my own way. But would this feeling last in the final 3 difficulties? What you're seeing is stage 280 of Hell. It features a lot of trust flicks, but you can use a little bounce on this one to save some time. This is probably the hardest part of the stage. I just hate head hitters because of how easy it is to die. But after about 30 deaths, I found this really useful trick of sliding under them. In general, this stage really tests your consistency because failing once costs you a lot of time having to do the jumps again. The last jumps are fairly self-explanatory, unless you're like me and you end up going the wrong way somehow. After hitting the bouncer, the stage was complete. This next stage in Hell Plus is very technical. It tests your knowledge on every type of jump that you've learned until this point in the game. With the whopping 150 deaths it took me to beat this stage, this really was an introduction to the demon difficulty. So we're finally on Demon, the second last difficulty, and we have to climb up this wall. Looks easy, right? At one point, I even searched it up on YouTube to see if it's possible. How does he do it so easily? Oh my god, I actually hit it. This is the third longest stage in the game, and it's definitely the hardest stage up until this point. It not only tests your consistency, but the jumps are also difficult. I mean, just take this jump. It's even harder than the one in the previous stage that I spent so long trying to complete. I got so bored of taking the same route over and over again and constantly dying that I even resorted to glitching to see if I could cheese the stage. This was not only a waste of time, but when I actually managed to high jump the wall, it barely skipped anything. So I kept on trying until on death 240, this happened. This was the first time I made it this far, and I spent a while trying to figure out what to do next. Until when I finally tried to jump, I actually hit it. Well, kind of. This jump would haunt me for the next 3 hours. I don't even know how I managed to hit it the first time. Until after around 600 deaths, I quit. Something very important I learned from Celeste is to just breathe. This is what it feels like to be free. For the sake of time, I'm just gonna skip straight to Master Plus. Okay, I don't need to do that every time. We're finally on the last difficulty, but I already failed the challenge. I mean, I was supposed to beat the game in 6 months, but it's been 7. I guess I'll just have to beat the game anyway. The hardest stage in the game is literally right behind me. So stage 379 consists of 6 buttons, and you have to press each of them in the correct order. The thing in the center spins around slowly and transports you to each of the buttons. To reach some of the buttons, you need to hit a difficult jump, but then you need to hit the jump again so that the spinny thing can bring you to the next button. So if every button is on at the same time, you're able to go on top of the spinny thing and beat the stage. But if one button reaches 0, then the platform disappears under you and you can't continue. But after all the training I've been through, all the jumps I learned along the way, and the hours I spent learning, I was completely ready for this stage. And I demolished it. Oh boy. I wonder if I can beat this game without dying. How does he do it so easily? I played a game about climbing a mountain. Something very important I learned from Celeste is to just breathe. This is what it feels like to be free.